Other news, several South Texas counties, including Brooks, Duval, and Kennedy, are soon going to get some financial relief, and that's thanks to a new law that Congressman Vicente Gonzalez helped to get through Congress. What it does is reimburse counties for the costs associated with immigrant bodies that are discovered in the South Texas brush country. Our Michael Gibson has the details.
The remains of immigrants have turned up in and around Brooks County for as long as anyone can remember. The county sits in some of the hottest and driest stretches of the Wild Horse Desert, or as some people call it, the Desert of the Dead. Each year, hundreds of thousands of immigrants illegally make their way across this area, trying to sneak around the border checkpoint south of Falfurrias along Highway 281. In 2020, there were some 35 bodies found in the Brooks County area alone, bringing the total to around 800 remains found over the past 10 years. It's left Brooks County with hundreds of thousands of dollars in cost still on the books.
We're over $680,000, so it's just a matter of sitting down and figuring out how we're going to channel the funding.
Brooks County Sheriff Benny Martinez speaking after this press conference held by Congressman Vicente Gonzalez at the Hidalgo County Sheriff's Office in Edinburgh. The conference spreading the word about a new law that Congressman Gonzalez helped to pass called the Missing Persons and Unidentified Remains Act.
It'll definitely help our resources and bring in some more assets that's needed.
The cost associated with identifying and burying each of those remains can run into the thousands of dollars. Under the new act, the federal government will now cover those costs, as well as paying to install more rescue beacons and other items needed to try and cut down on the number of immigrants dying out in the deserts of Brooks County.
It's going to take the burden off taxpayers. Our local sheriff's department have struggled for decades now in having to use local resources to find the remains of deceased out in the open pastures and country lands and deserts at the cost of local taxpayers and sheriff's departments.
Congressman Gonzalez says the federal government is committed to funding this effort, one that he believes was always its responsibility, not that of local taxpayers. Michael Gibson, 3 News.